Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy that some people made it back after the lunch. And first, I would like to introduce myself. So I'm Andrea, and I'm the founder of Abury. Abury is a fair trade lifestyle brand that connects international designers and local artisans. So we give grants to designers so they actually go to a craft community to live there for 4 to 8 weeks, do design workshops, quality workshops, and finally also a collection that we then sell and market in the international market. So what we want to do is kind of enable and empower local craftspeople to produce things that they actually can sell and that they have a fair income. All this started because 11 years ago I lived in Marrakesh for 2 years, and for me it was very obvious that there are like 3 major challenges for the local production. Like one is quality management processes. They're mostly not in place, so you can have like 1 or 2 products made that way, but you usually don't have like 100 or 1,000 products that are like in the same quality. And design, a lot of the designs are still very like locally influenced and not easy to sell on the international market. And the third is actually connection to the international market. Like the local market with the tourists, they want to have cheap. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Morocco, for example, they also have a big competition with cheap imports from Asia in the meantime. So like the classic babouche or even teapots and stuff, they actually you get them very cheap on Alibaba. And then they come in big containers to the local markets. So talking about that topic, I would like to kind of quickly like talk about the situation, then see the potential, and then also create the vision and tell you a little bit more about what we want to do in the future and what we think is important to actually use the growth potential of Africa in sustainable manufacturing. If you look around in the classical media at the moment, so this is what I kind of found and what kind of reflects also my my preservation of the local market in Morocco. So manufacturing grows in numbers, but it actually, regarding GDP, it actually stagnates. And over the last like 10 years. And one problem is that African countries, they don't spend a lot of money in research and development. So the products, they don't evolve so much, especially compared to the international percentages. As you can see, even in Southeast Asia, it's almost double the spending than in Africa. Also, there is not so much investment in human capital, and it's still kind of underrated what kind of impact education can have, and especially, and that's also coming back to that in the potential stuff, is number 1, women, and number 2, also entrepreneurial education. The market itself, it's atomized, like there are a lot of small businesses all over the place, so that makes it obviously very difficult, especially if the infrastructure is not there. I'm talking about streets and stuff, so in Africa, in like all over, it's around only 40% of the area that is really well connected, and a lot of the tribes and people who produce outside are like living in small villages still, so which is a big problem, obviously, to bring the goods to certain to the big centers, which means it's inefficient. And at the end, there's a low level of private investments. Well, there is a lot of money that goes to Africa, but thinking about like the private investments, there's still not a lot of trust, and people still kind of, especially also from the private market, they're not very confident. Obviously, also because they probably don't know the culture so well and stuff. There are a lot of things that influence There's also, like in a global perspective, obviously the international situation, like at the moment, but also after 2008, obviously confidence in investment fell everywhere. So here I just got some numbers about infrastructure because I thought it's kind of really, really interesting that you see you actually would need 93 billion to actually get the infrastructure organized, and they're like just not even half of it in the investment that's already there. Then the number of the 34% of population that actually have access to a good infrastructure, and yeah, so I thought that was quite interesting. Now, rather looking on the positive sides, like the potentials. Everything that we talked about now that are obviously situations that is difficult, at the same time there is always a potential in it. So there are 4 pillars, like the institutions, infrastructure, human capital, and technology that can be further developed, and there is a big potential in it. I really believe that the culture of entrepreneurship has a big potential. Like that we go from an little bit an atmosphere of actually receiving money and getting subsidized to a more active and self-ruling society that actually is power to the people, and they actually create their own businesses and make their own money and also then work with the profits. That's also a little bit connected with the next one, saying like going from a producer just of raw materials to a producer that includes value-added services. This is mostly where you actually at the end earn margins and money. Like if you just produce the fabric, then you sell the fabric. But if you also make a really nice dress, then so you can add and also obviously then earn the margins in between that otherwise other people earn. Another thing obviously is trying to get around the corruption thing and create more transparency and trust, therefore, for investors. Especially I don't know, like in Morocco, it is, well, if you know where to go and with whom you speak, I think corruption is a very obvious thing. And what I learned is that is actually happening all over Africa. And I think this is something that is blocking a lot of potential. And I'm coming back to that later because I think if we would integrate more women in the whole business thing, we could also get around that. What I said before, human capital, educating people. There is a lot of education going on, but it's still not enough. And I will come back to that later as well. And obviously, at the same time, connected with education, it's also a learning process with establishing quality management processes. And it's not only the technical part of the quality management, but it's also the psychological part, that you start actually to care for what you produce. And I think that's something really important. Like what I see in working with artisans now for 10 years, at the beginning we had like 40% of products that didn't correspond with our quality perception. And it really took a long time, but I really tried to talk with the people to actually make them proud of what they do again, and to make them proud of the product, what they produce and what they deliver. And in a lot of like workshops and sitting together, now we brought it down to about maybe 5 to 10% of products that are that are still a little bit bumpy, but now it's like they come and you see the smile on their face when they know they have actually produced something really good, and they're really proud of their knowledge and of their skills. And I think this is something that's not only Africa, like we all should be proud of what we do and what we produce, but it's I think an incremental and really important factor in this quality management process. It's not only about establishing the technological things, but also getting it into the minds of the people that it's their work and they should be proud of it. And then also a lot of other things activate themselves, actually. So for me, actually, this is a hidden potential, and I call it cultural capital. Like all the crafts and manufacturing itself. And as we know, a lot of women are actually working in this environment because they can work from home, they come together in the afternoon, they do a little bit together. And in the whole artisan and craft sector, it's about 80% women who work. But and there's a lot of education actually happening. And if you look at the gender gap report, it's really, the countries are spread all over the planet. So they're like Rwanda is like in the top 10 countries in the world, but then again, North African countries, they're really on the bottom of the list, especially because of economic and political integration of women. That's like the biggest gaps at the moment. And I think that if we can kind of get through this so that women not only get education, but also actually get hired and start their own businesses and get into political roles, and then we can change a lot. And I think there is a huge potential. And I'm really not like a feminist like this, but I think there should be an equality, and we are like far away from equality in Africa. So I think there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of potential for positive change and also growth. So we also, like the topic as I understood is here is also to see like, okay, how can we actually, like in Europe or Germany, actually cooperate with Africa, and how could be this, how can we actually go together in a positive future? And what I think is really important is that it works on an eye-to-eye level, and that we get away from this subsidiaries and subvention, but I think through business you can actually activate potentials, and I think both parties have to bring something to the table, because we have tradition, we have craft skills, we have authenticity, stories, a lot of heritage that we have in Africa, and in a lot of countries, a huge understanding of technology as well, and like meetups that start, and so there is a lot of things happening in the younger generation as well. But obviously here we have like the market access, we have design, we have marketing, and I think if we bring this together and on an eye-to-eye level, and also business-wise actually sharing the profits, and not just like employing cheap labor and then taking the profits to Europe, but also kind of sharing the profits, then that could be a fair model to go into the future. Also, because I think growth needs profits. Like, I think our growth in Europe is based on the fact that we kept a lot of profits in here, and we invested the profits here, and I think there is a big potential. Just if you kind of share the profits and give some of the profits back, then it's also not subventions, subsidiaries and stuff, but it's earned money. It's like money that you can be proud of and that you have worked hard for, and you think about where you reinvest it. It's a completely different approach than if you get it just like this. This is at least what we have experienced, because this is our model at Abury. We share the profits, and then we discuss with the artisans like how we should invest the money. So for example, in Morocco, we have a school where the children for them like can learn how to read and write, and actually also the women get training in reading, but also kind of some technical learning courses. But it's kind of, they are proud of it because it's not a donation, but they actually earned it. And we did an interview with like the artisans 2 years ago, and then we asked them, okay, like why, like what's the special, what makes it special actually to work for the artisan, for Abury? And then they actually said, well, it's because Abury actually supports the people in Morocco again. It's like our money actually goes back, and we are a part of the progress in our community. So what I'm a really strong believer is like this intercultural value creation. I think we have both sides that have something to bring to the table, and we just have to kind of build trust to build it and to work together. So having worked on this brand for the last 5 years, we worked in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Morocco in Africa so far, but also in Romania, Chile, and Ecuador. And the situation that you find is kind of almost the same everywhere if you go to rural areas and local communities. And because we are still we are very small, we are like one brand, but I get more and more emails like from designers, from brands, but at the same time from communities that ask like, okay, can we work with the designer because we have these skills, but we want to go the next step. We now go the next step, which is design meets craft. It's matching and collaboration platform, and also an e-learning platform. So I started like running around saying like, I'm doing the Tinder for designers and artisans. Obviously it's much more, and it's not only about swiping left or right. It's more like a sophisticated Parship, I say. But it's a trusted environment. You can exchange designs and things, and it's all documented, so you don't have to be afraid that your designs are stolen. It's an e-learning platform where you have a knowledge center where you can learn how to pack a package that also your products actually arrive safely in Europe when you send them, or where you learn about pricing and all these kind of things. And it's in a very early stage, I have to say. We want to make it not as an online platform, but even more as a mobile platform, because what I've learned is that like everybody has a smartphone. Like, I don't know, we communicate with WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. No matter like how rural the people are, they always find a smartphone. It's more difficult to find a computer. So our main interface will be a very simple app. And yeah, that's really too small for a presentation. I'm really sorry. So here's how it works. It's really like in a matching platform. You create your digital showroom, no matter if you're a designer or an artisan, where you can tag yourself with what you need or what you can offer. Like saying, okay, I want to work in Africa. I prefer, I don't know, West Africa, I want to have vegan leather, I want to do 200 bags, and then artisan communities can make kind of the same, but they say like our production capacity is da-da-da, we speak this and that language and all these things, and then at the end, through an algorithm, it pops up 95% hard, 80% so, and this is how you find each other. And then if there is a match, a smart contract is kind of created, and you start like your communication in a safe environment, and you can exchange designs and go into production. And then, yeah, finally also, no matter what, sales, or the designer can travel there and visit the production and all these kind of things. Yeah, this is how it works. I just actually put this to show it like how many ways there are, and it's actually at the end it's very simple, but it looks a bit difficult. But it's like this is the platform in the middle, and then obviously we have some business partners like big companies who sponsor it, or who have special projects, or NGOs, like for example interested is like talking about South America, Pro Chile, that's the export company of Chile, and they're like, okay, like we really want to feature our artisans there because we think through that they can actually get a good access to the international market. So this is one kind of partners, and then we say artisans / producers, and on the other side we have designers / brands / companies who want to make a product or a smaller bit of production. And then the good thing is it works kind of like Airbnb or TripAdvisor, meaning you can rate your partner. So is a designer reliable with payments? Does a community deliver high quality products? Or they can, like the artisans can actually look for a designer who helps them pro bono, because they say, hey, we have this problem and we are looking for a designer who is actually coming to us for 4 weeks solving this problem, which is a kind of, we call it designers for good. It's a little bit like Doctors Without Borders. When they go somewhere and they kind of do eye operations, it's the kind of same things for designers, that they kind of go somewhere and just help the artisans to go the next step. Like there's a lot of things that you can do on this platform. And funny enough, we put it on a contest of the MIT, and I don't know, I feel that here in Germany the topic is still like not very high in the perception. In the US and in the UK there's a lot more happening regarding like this whole area. Like the Aspen Institute has a special section for manufacturing and Artisan Alliance, and obviously also the MIT has this Inclusive Innovation Challenge, and we put this project into the income growth and job creation part, and we are like on the 3 finalists in Europe. And yeah, now it's about going to the MIT. So let's see. Keep your fingers crossed. And we tried this a couple of times before, like I said. So we brought actually designers and artisans together. And no matter how, I think there's a technology is important, and it's one factor, but the whole manufacturing part is something very tangible and very emotional, and we shouldn't forget that it also takes a lot of time, and it's human, and it's about relations and working together. And these are 2 quotes from designers who have actually spent time in Morocco and Ethiopia, and I think it shows yeah, also the potential not only for Africa but also for us to grow. Yeah, and then obviously you need some supporters, and we try at the moment to find as many as possible, and this is why I also want to shout out here to you, like if you know anybody who could be interested in partnering or whatsoever, very happy to be contacted. Also, the German UNESCO Commission gave us an endorsement that they think it's an innovative way to kind of preserve immaterial cultural heritage. And so that's it. I think there's a lot of potential for growth in the manufacturing sector. I think it's important that we start activating potentials and not work in dependencies, but really create also profit within the continent, and also reinvest the profit on the continent. And and I think then like step by step. Yeah. Yeah, you have it. You can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to find out more. And also you said you had some projects in Romania. I come from Romania.
Ah.
I would like to know a bit more.
Yeah. We did one, there was a EU-funded project, which was called Worth Project. And we went to Romania and did some hand-embroidered cushions and like these little stools, like that you can, but with leather, embroidered leather. Yeah, so that was kind of more, that was one project. We did it for 1 year. It was super interesting. Yeah.
Are you functioning as an online shop, or how can people get the clothes?
Yeah.
Or we can find them here in Berlin or other cities?
Yeah. We have a shop in the Bikini Berlin. It's just closed for 2 weeks now, but from the 3rd of September, we'll have a shop in the Bikini Berlin. Then we have about 50 retailers in Germany, like boutiques all over, like in Hamburg and like everywhere. And we have an online shop, which is www.abury.net. Yeah, and then that's what we have at the moment. It is planned that for the future, when design meets craft is bigger, that we'll have another online shop, but for the moment, abury.net. You decide.
Just wanted to ask, are you also distributing on the African market?
No, not yet.
Because I feel that when wealth also grows, like the demand also for, especially I would call this like luxury goods,
Yeah.
let's say, but there's a high demand. If you look at the people who have money,
Mhm.
they all want to buy Gucci and this and that, and then bling bling and shine, and I think there could be a market for you as well.
I'm absolutely have the same opinion. The thing is that we are a small team, and then you have to start focusing like on one step at one time. And our first focus was starting on the local market, like establishing that we like grow in Germany, and then. But then I completely agree that also the African and Arabic market, also like Dubai and is super interesting. Yeah.
Okay, unfortunately, I arrived a little bit late, so
Yeah.
I couldn't see the whole presentation. But I don't know if you know the American NGO Sustainable Preservation Initiative.
I have heard of them, but we haven't been in contact yet.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think you could change, because now they are in Africa. I think they are in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
They work mostly on South America,
Mhm.
and they are very in favor of women empowerment. So,
Okay.
So they give jobs. What they do is that they go to the place
Yeah.
and they teach them how to create their own business
Mhm.
with
That's yeah.
using their traditional craft techniques.
Yeah.
And mostly with women.
Mhm.
So it was very complicated in the beginning.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mostly in South America, it's very machismo.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
I know.
So what they do is that they give them the tools to create a business, and in the end, they are fully independent.
Yeah.
And what they do is that they offer a platform to sell the products online.
Okay.
And it's very connected to heritage, because
Yeah.
some of the poorest people in the world, they live close to heritage sites. So what
Yeah.
they do is give them the tools, and somehow the people feel that they need to attract the tourists,
Mhm.
but at the same time they are protecting the heritage site.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, absolutely.
In the end, it's because of the heritage site that people go So they create a sustainable business.
Yeah.
Maybe
That it was sustainable preservation.
Sustainable Preservation Initiative.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of their work because
Yeah.
people sometimes have complicated in putting money connected with heritage.
Yeah.
Don't feel afraid to say it's necessary.
Yeah.
If you want to preserve and conserve intangible heritage, the money must exist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Heritage economics is part of
Yeah.
it. So in this case, you should change some emails with them because
Yeah.
they do a great job. I'm a fan.
Fantastic. That's really cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cool.
I'm glad you mentioned authenticity and cultural heritage because with a lot of these African countries and African communities, what we see on the commercial market in Western states, like originally comes from these communities, like how these designs look, the modes of production that are used, but they have not been able to get the maximum benefit out of that because a lot of these African countries have very weak intellectual property laws that can really protect that indigenous knowledge. So we see something on like the German market and we can really identify that it's originally a Maasai design or it's originally a Khoisan design. So what do you think can be done to strengthen more the preservation of indigenous knowledge, particularly as it relates to design, to make sure that indigenous communities get the maximum benefit?
That's a super interesting topic. We just actually did an event about cultural and intellectual property, just like at Green Showroom at Fashion Week. That was our topic. Because at the moment, you cannot protect cultural and intellectual property. And a friend of mine, she's a lawyer, she's actually from Romania. And she started this cultural intellectual property rights initiative. And because also in Romania, they have big problems. And there's like one thing that trends at the moment is that some Romanian artisans are actually suing Dior because they have copied a very traditional jacket from Romania. And they copied it really more or less one-to-one. But they didn't refer not to the culture, not to anything. And then McCann Erickson, like a really huge advertising agency, and Vogue Romania together started an initiative to protect their local artisans and did this 3-minute movie, and obviously very, very high quality, where they kind of made fun of Dior and also gave the voice to the artisans. So they really went there, they showed how it's been made and proved that actually the design and everything came from Romania. And then the artisan said, okay, you can buy this jacket now with us for 500 euros or with Dior for 15,000. Yeah, so then obviously a lot of people actually put orders to Romania, and also already through that, they were like empowered. But obviously not everywhere you have like a McCann Erickson and a Vogue who actually raised the voice for you, you know. So it is at the moment it's really difficult, but there's a lot of talk at the moment going on how you can protect cultural intellectual property, like what kind of business models you can put behind. Like, I think it's really difficult to protect it at the end, but what we should create is a kind of common understanding of right. And if you use a design that is obviously taken from a culture, from whatever, Maasai or no matter what, then you should automatically say, okay, I give back 10% of all the income to like this country or to I don't know. That has to be developed, but this is what's happening at the moment. We call it benefit sharing model. And we're really at the moment, because we're part of this cultural intellectual property initiative, because I also really feel that there's a lot being stolen and not referred to, and I completely understand it's super difficult and it's only in the beginning. But I think the discussion is starting. And you can always only just try to raise the voice, write emails to the companies, I don't know. Every little step helps. And look up cultural, intellectually property rights initiative. The girl is Monica, and she's really, really cool, and yeah, she's driving that initiative. Yeah, not directly, but we have a partnership with Varidi Papst, Varidi Schropsdorf. She's a Kenyan ex-model who lives here, and she's now actually supporting Kenyan designers, African designers, but mostly Kenyan designers, to actually bring their products here and to find places where they can sell them. So, and we work together, yeah, a little bit, but yeah. And we have Adèle de Jacques in our shop. I don't know if you know her. She's a Kenyan designer as well. Adèle de Jacques. She does jewelry.